Hello there. So I've been playing this small indie game called Danse for a while, from around 2014 to be specific. I'm most certainly most of you who subscribe to this channel know what the game is, but if you for some reason don't, here's the game in short. The game is an auto-scroller 2D platformer where you can play official levels made by the solo developer of the game, RobTop, or try out your skills on custom levels made in the in-game level editor, made by hundreds and hundreds of thousands of players. For most of the time, I have just played levels, thousands of hours. I've been using the editor from time to time to make smaller joke levels and partial collaborations with other players though. But only recently, this year, I started actually focusing on the things I create. On April 1st, I made a semi-serious joke level related to a GD-related Discord server I have been a part of since 2020. I got the level done in about 2 days. The final version of it being published on the morning of April 2nd. Now we're getting to the point of this video. What if I took the inspiration and motivation I had for the April 1st level and made a new level, but instead of making it in about 24 hours, I used a whole week on it? Yeah, this is what this video is about. I'll be sharing some of my thoughts about the creating process, sources of inspiration, motivation, and such. Also, the following video contains a lot of flashes, so if you're sensitive to those, I would advise not to proceed further. Okay, enough yapping. I'm in Waltz, but you can also call me Eve. Without further ado, let's begin. The first day I used pretty much entirely for just making a layout for the level. For the song I chose Act Right 5 Fentanyl. I figured making a layout is pretty straightforward, so I didn't record that process. I actually did end up starting a block design for the first part of the level, despite thinking I'd just be focusing on the layout. Oh well, that's what happens when you get excited about something, I guess. For the block design space, I chose a dark blue and added some black and light blue glow to the corners to give it a bit of depth. I got an idea to add small X marks, switching color from orange to purple in a loop, which added some contrast and a good focus point in the also simple base. After that, I also wanted to add an effect to the outlines of the structures, where they would fill in as the player passes by. I ended up going for a rotating white mass of objects on a lower layer, and to focus the white area around the objects I masked the surroundings with black objects on a higher layer. Later on I would also use scale triggers to perform this same effect in different situations. The second day started off with more effects for the first part. I wanted to add a sort of cracking effect when the player would jump on the platforms with orbs inside them. Like mentioned earlier, I used scale triggers for this instead of making a mask with the black objects. I found this solution to be way more visually pleasing and effortless to pull off. I felt like the first part seemed a little empty, so I also tested some air decoration options, but quickly after the first bad attempt at making something more complicated, I picked up a few 45-degree rotated squares, made them low opacity, and gave them the same effect as the small X's. A source of inspiration I would say I had for this project was this one creator called KMJ Fire, whose levels, especially the insane difficulty ones, I really like. They inspired me to the fast-paced gameplay seen at the spider part later on the level. Huge thumbs up for them for being such an awesome creator. You should go play out their levels. For this fast spider part, I wanted to add a background to be a bit different, so I chose to make it with the shader triggers that were added in the 2.2 update. I first used a bulge effect on, I think, layer B4 or B5, and later on I would add on radial blur to it. There are some lyrics in the song I chose to use, which I wanted to visualize. I took some inspiration from the Impact font style. The way I made some of these letters is probably not the most optimal way of making them, but I'll let that slide for now. I think these letters turned out quite well. I'm really happy with them. For the next thing to do, I decided to structure the second part near the beginning of the level. This slope seemed like a good way to go. I think they gave it a good break for the straight 90-degree angles the first part had, nice way, and made the level look, I think, more dynamic, I would say. Something like that. I continued the structure in Spree to the next part too, but with a slightly different approach. I also took just my structures a tiny bit further and decided to try to decorate them a bit. I personally am not a huge fan of big solid areas that have nothing going on, but after a bit of experimenting, I thought of a cool parallax effect I could make using the shader triggers. Bit of trial and error, and I got it working. The next thing I had to do was to put a sort of a mask on top of the areas where I didn't want the effect to show. I think I remember seeing some platform level like over a year ago use a similar effect. If I'm not wrong, I can't remember the name. At this point, I also added the parallax effect to the spider part as well. I decided now is the moment to make the effect using the text that I have thought of before. Basically, it's just a bunch of toggle triggers turning the different words on and off. It's nothing special really. I did have to link some words, like the objects, together at first, because it just made my life so much easier and would help me also later on. On the third day, Wednesday, I started adding some screen effects that would solve something that had been bothering me. When the shader trigger background things got to the left and right edges of the screen, they would sometimes act strangely. So I made a black overlay that would follow the player and hide some of those, but now looking back at it later on, it doesn't actually do that so much. But yeah, it's just a some solid color objects with low opacity. I also wanted to then finish some of the work with the text things I had started yesterday. On the topic of text, I wanted to continue the lyrics of the song, the spider part, but this time with just normal text objects to not make it look messy. And maybe because I was a bit lazy, but that's beside the point. I had lunch, and while eating I had a nice idea for some orb hit attacks. I returned to the beginning of the level where I had 2 red orbs that would fit the ring with the idea. The idea of the effect was similar to the white outlines effect I made earlier with those scale triggers, but this time I would also add the shader to the effect. I used one of the already existing piles of objects as the base for the shape of the effect and modified it a bit to make it look more original and fitting. The final effect looks like something like if the player would be like punching a hole in the background or something. I don't know. After I was finished with the shape of the hole, I had to make an area on the shape of the hole to prevent the shader looking weird like before. I'm fairly sure you could have done this like in a way more simple way, but it's what it is. I also like added some parts of the background that toggle on and off when hitting the orbs. I also added some spikes to the ground parts of the spider because I felt like it was missing something. And also made sure that people can't skip gameplay from underneath the structures. The last thing for this day I decided to do was a block design for an empty part I had been thinking about a lot about. Luckily, on accident, I did find an interesting block design I had made some time ago for maybe a challenge level, I think. Yeah, this was found from my custom objects. I vividly remember making this design. The rest of the process for this part was pretty straightforward. I added some objects that were similar to the design to connect the random blocks in the air to something. Then some additional spikes were added along with other structures. And then a few arrows to make the gameplay feel more finished. From orange to purple, like some other things in the level. I was not a huge fan of this design at first, but after like working on with it a bunch, it kind of grew on me, and now I'm kind of like it. I changed the text effect a bit to match the aesthetic of the rest of the part, now that the part was actually looking a bit better. And I also added the parallax effect to the text. I'm just a bit obsessed with the parallax effect. To make things easier for me, I made some templates of the structures I used. After adding more structures, I decided to add these silly little cube things that I think they just look cool. I don't really know like reason why I put them there, other than that they just look cool. Yeah, it made the level look more alive, I guess. For the last thing today, I added some random light beams to the gaps. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure why I added these light beams, but I felt like they just look cool. Day 5 was a bit more quiet one. I started decorating the last chip part of the level, but that was about it. I wasn't feeling super inspired and just had an idea for the last part. And also playing Genshin Impact for the entire day might have been one reason, but yeah. I had played the daily level today and saw it had an interesting trail effect in a ship part. So I decided to implement something similar in the level. The level is Ruby Rye by GD MacLeod, if you want to play it. After being satisfied enough with the effect, I tried to lay down some possible ideas, which actually turned out all to be so awful that I ended up removing them entirely. The next day, Saturday, I started working on the end part again. I had some ideas about what I wanted to do with the last part. If you're seeing some things that are different in this part, that's because I forgot to record some parts of the building process somehow. Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to make the last ship part custom ground. I had some idea at first that I thought would be good, but as you are soon going to see, I did just end up deleting the entire thing and making something else. Instead of this idea, I decided to take reference from the actual GD base ground. I wanted to make something similar to the ground, so I could use it how I wanted to. So yeah, here's a time lapse of this process. The rest of the work with the ground is not really that interesting to watch, so to put it in short, I basically just added a bunch of triggers that would make the ground move smoothly with the players and also move up and down smoothly when I wanted it to. Then I got an idea. What if in the spider part, when the player would click, cracks would appear on the ground. Yeah, so I ended up doing that. I looked up some cracked ground images on Google and found some stock photos I took reference from. I think they turned out way better with reference than when I tried to do them without reference. I ended up using count triggers in the crack system, but I think this would be the best way to do this. I'm actually not entirely sure. Do let me know if there is a better way to do this in the future, because this is a really cool effect. At this point, there weren't really so many things to do in the level, so I decided to work more on some smaller details. I used a while adding some smaller details like arrows that actually don't point anywhere. I think that's a really funny thing to do. People should really do that more. The ground structures felt a bit empty after the spider part, so I decided to give that a radial blur as well. It got a nice 3D look and made the part way more interesting to look at. And then some small details again. Despite there still being a small integrated section in the gameplay, I felt like it was now a good time to make the end screen. I didn't really have any specific source of inspiration for the end screen, I kind of just did it on the go. After looking at this while editing, I realized that something that the design reminds me is the logo of Waka, a rhythm arcade game. Yeah. If you're still here, I hope you're not too bored. I'm well aware this might not be as interesting to look at for other people as it is for me. But if you are interested and want to see more projects of mine in the future, consider subscribing. Don't worry, I won't flood your notifications too much. Yeah. About the level name, I had some thought about what the name of the level would be while making it, and the name is basically a mix of the word weak and a part of the name of the song. So whacked. Don't ask where the H comes from. Yeah, it is just there. Don't worry about it. Making the end screen was probably one of my favorite things for me to do in this project. I personally absolutely love making different kinds of styles for letters. Yeah, topology is a very important thing for me. I always want to make sure that the letters I make are cool. Okay, at this part I have no idea what happened. I decorated the empty part almost entirely, but somehow the recording wasn't on. I guess no process of this so-called design then. It's kind of simple design anyway, so like I tried to make this part sort of a transitioning part from the cramped corridor of the spider part to the more clean ship part. I'm personally not a huge fan of this design, but it fills its purpose, so I'm fine with it. Then some move triggers to make the transition from this part to the spider part look smooth. That's done. So that's it. Yeah, the level is ready in 1 week. Yippee! But that wasn't 7 days, was it? No, that was not 7 days. I actually wanted to have time to edit this video and prepare everything to be ready with both the level and this video in 7 days. So yeah, the level is out and ready to play. So this video actually took a day longer than it should have, because last night when I was editing this video, Windows just decided to corrupt literally all the audio files I had. So that's really great. I had to do this audio recording again, but yeah. I will release a video after this one with the showcase of the full level, because the song is copyrighted. and I don't want this video to be copyrighted. I think making this level and this video was an interesting experience in a positive way, if I ignore the Windows corrupting my files thing. Yeah. Setting the time limit for 1 week also helped me to keep myself in time with everything, because I was always aware how much time I had left for things, and I was sort of better able to better decide how much should I progress in each day. I do recommend other people trying this too. If not in Geometry Dash, then maybe some other projects like drawing, something like that. Yeah, but don't overwork yourself. That's not good. Anyway, that's it for this video. Okay, bye bye, and remember to get enough sleep because I probably won't. Bye.